Saturday morning, the Experts program kicks off here on Power Talk Radio. And Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, joining us on this beautiful Saturday in June. Hi, Luis.
How are you today, my friend? It is gorgeous out there. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
So this reminds me of why we live here, right? It's just this beautiful, beautiful day.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about technology here, as we always do. And under the title of Emerging Tech, the TSA, which is the, what's thousands standing around? No, it's the, what is Transportation Security Administration. Okay, TSA is continuing facial recognition rollout at airports. What's going on here?
So I just got back from a trip to Dallas. It was a conference that I was speaking at. And, flying, the nice thing about Dallas for us here in Monterey County is you can fly directly there from Monterey. So it was a quick flight there. And then I did my deal and stayed a couple days and then came back. And when I got to the airport in Dallas to check in, you go through security, and I have TSA pre. I've done the process of getting myself to the TSA pre-line. And when you get to the counter, you usually show them your boarding pass and your ID, and they look at you. Back just a few weeks ago, they would say, can you take your mask down so that we can look at your face? But now that's no longer an issue. And then you'd be on your way. Well, when I got to the counter, the gal said, no, I don't need your boarding pass. I just need your ID. And she stuck my license into a machine. And then she said, look into this camera. And I did. And 2 seconds later, she said, okay, thank you. And I said, well, you don't need to see my boarding pass? She goes, no, the system has all that information in it. We've been hearing about facial recognition starting to be used at airports to allow international travelers to get to board faster. But this is my first experience domestically with it. So I had to dig in and figure out what was going on. And it's amazing how quickly TSA is rolling out this facial recognition system at airports across the country to speed up the security process for those folks that are TSA pre. It's not going to be used for, the masses, if you will, if you're not signed up to TSA pre for a while, because it's more cumbersome. But if you're signed up for TSA pre and use that line to get through security faster, you might find yourself staring at a camera soon instead of showing them your boarding pass.
Is this going to be available at the Monterey airport or only at larger metro airports?
I think initially, from what I've been reading and my research shows, that it's going to start with the larger airports where they have higher volumes of traffic. So you'll see it in San Jose and San Francisco first, but eventually as the technology is rolled out, you'll see it at every TSA pre-line across the country. So for those of us who sometimes worry about privacy and the fact that the government knows more than we really want them to know about us, if you sign up for TSA pre, you may find yourself being one of these ushered in through facial recognition rather than the traditional way of going through security.
I guess the other thing with this too is it does speed up the check-in and the boarding, correct?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, It literally, normally when you go through even through a TSA pre-line, it takes a good 3 to 4 minutes for the person behind the counter to check your boarding pass, check your license, make sure you're who you are. With this system, I mean, it was less than 10 seconds and I was through.
Interesting. And of course, in smaller airports like Monterey, you move through the line pretty quickly to begin with. Yeah. So it may not be huge need for it in a small airport like that, but certainly San Jose, San Francisco, LA, for those who want to spend less time in line, they may be willing to go ahead. And this is an opt-in, right? Or do you have an option to not do it?
That was another interesting point, is you do have the option to opt out. However, there was no signage that said that. There was nothing as I was standing in line to say, hey, if you don't want to use this, you have another option. But I later learned that yes, TSA, if you tell them, no, I don't want to use your facial recognition system, they'll do it the conventional way of looking at your boarding pass and things like that. But just like a lot of things that we accept in life without really questioning, I think most people are just going to go with the flow when it comes to this. And it's not just TSA. I mean, there's a lot of private industry, private companies that are looking at facial recognition as a way to eliminate the whole check-in process. I've heard of a couple of football stadiums that are looking at that as a way for season ticket holders to actually get through the line faster rather than, standing in line and going through the check-in process. If you're a season ticket holder, you're registered, they have your picture, you've gone through the process, then you can just go into the stadium much faster. Don't even have to show your tickets because they have your face on record.
Now, I would guess in some instances, like for some people that would obviously opt out, I'm thinking of Muslim women wearing the hijab where most of their face is covered but their eyes. Obviously, facial recognition wouldn't work in that instance, and they may not be willing to submit to that. And I was just looking in the story here, Jeremy Scott, who's a senior lawyer at EPIC, that's the Electronic Privacy Information Center, he told a reporter, hey, what is a voluntary pilot program today becomes a mandatory process tomorrow. So these are people that are concerned about civil liberties that even though TSA is saying it's voluntarily right now, at what point do they decide to make it mandatory?
Yeah, no doubt that is a distinct possibility as the technology becomes more accepted and there are fewer complaints and fewer issues. And TSA worker costs $25 an hour. And if you can eliminate a few of those because you have this automated system and it works fast and you can have one line instead of two, it's definitely going to be an incentive to save money.
By the way, DHS, Department of Homeland Security, has now sent out a contract, an RFP, request for proposal, under their Science and Technology Directorate Silicon Valley Innovation Program, that they're looking for a prototype project or technology that could help them with automated surveillance systems identifying people or objects of interest based on descriptive rules in public areas that they term soft targets. So this could be cameras tracking all of us, people and objects across schools, sports venues, subway systems, tourist attractions, and even private businesses.
Yeah, and this is akin to what's already in use in places like London, right? When the saying is that London has the most cameras per capita of any city in the world because they use video surveillance specifically for what we're talking about, is to detect the presence of people that shouldn't be someplace that maybe are suspected or known to be criminals or terrorists. And you could see that being used in places like, imagine a football game where you have thousands, tens of thousands of people in the stadium. It's impossible for human beings to track them all, but if you have cameras that can do it, why not use them?
This is enemy of the state and Minority Report, all wrapped into one. Jeez.
Exactly.
We saw those movies back into the late 90s, early 2000s, and now all that science fiction is becoming science fact.
Yep, that is so true, my friend. It's everywhere you go, they know you're there.
Yep. Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, has been our guest online. It's alvareztg.com, @AlvarezTG. That is their Twitter handle. And Luis, the toll-free number for that I-Team.
Give us a call at 866-78-I-Team. That's 866-784-8326.
And let's look ahead to Monday. And what are we talking about?
Yeah, so on Monday, we're going to talk about the changing state of the trucking, the national trucking system. Very interesting developments.
All right. Join us in the 8 o'clock hour starting on Monday. All right, Luis, thanks so much and have a great weekend.
You too, my friend.